Have you noticed the prices at the exotic fruit counter in your local supermarket lately? We're paying top dollar for luxury fruits that are heavily sprayed with chemicals, harvested way too early, and shipped across oceans in cold storage, completely stripping away their natural flavor. But what if I told you that you don't need to spend a fortune, and with just a few cheap pots, you can grow your very own high-end fruit garden? Today, I'm revealing a list of 15 super expensive, incredibly rare premium fruits that you can easily grow in cheap plastic pots right in your own backyard. Grab your trowels and your pots. Let's get planting. Kicking off our luxury backyard orchard at number 15 is the legendary Yuzu. Highly worshipped by Michelin star chefs globally, purchasing just a single, fresh yuzu fruit at a gourmet grocery store can severely dent your wallet for up to $20, making it one of the most expensive citrus fruits on Earth. Because it develops a vigorous, thirsty root system, you must select a highly breathable 10-gallon fabric grow bag to effectively air prune the roots and completely eliminate the risk of fatal fungal rot. Fill the bag with a top-tier, rapidly draining cactus and citrus potting mix, heavily amended with coarse sand and pine bark fines. You must entirely avoid growing this from seed. Instead, purchase a live, grafted nursery sapling and plant it directly into the dry soil. Place the container in the absolute most blistering, sun-drenched corner of your backyard patio. Your watering strategy must rely on a strict wet and dry cycle. Drench the fabric bag completely until water pours out. Then, absolutely refuse to water it again until the top 3 inches of soil are utterly bone dry. Feed it consistently every 6 weeks with a high-nitrogen, iron-rich granular citrus fertilizer. The harvest time arrives in the dead of winter, when the lumpy, thick skin transitions to a brilliant, glowing yellow. You must meticulously harvest them using sharp snips, explicitly avoiding the fiercely sharp thorns on the branches. To unlock its gourmet potential, you must recognize that the juice is incredibly scarce. Therefore, you primarily meticulously zest the highly aromatic rind to create premium, authentic Japanese ponzu sauce. According to a pharmacological study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, yuzu essential oils contain concentrated nomolen, significantly enhancing human blood circulation and noticeably lowering systemic stress markers when consumed. Fascinating fact: unlike virtually all other delicate citrus trees that instantly die in freezing weather, the yuzu biologically originated in the freezing mountains of Tibet, meaning this specific potted tree can physically survive brutal winter snowstorms in your backyard and temperatures plunging to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. At number 14 is the breathtaking white Alpine strawberry. You will absolutely never find these in a commercial supermarket because they are so incredibly delicate that they physically turn to mush within hours of being harvested, making them an exclusive, priceless delicacy you can only eat if you grow them in your own backyard. Because they have an incredibly shallow root system, a wide, shallow 6-inch unglazed terracotta bowl or window box is the absolute perfect container. Fill the shallow pot with a premium, slightly acidic, highly moisture-retentive potting medium heavily amended with rich compost and peat moss. You can easily grow these from microscopic seeds gently pressed onto the damp soil surface in early spring. Unlike standard strawberries that demand blistering heat, Alpine strawberries naturally grow on the floors of European forests. You must bring that forest floor environment to your backyard by placing the container in dappled, indirect sunlight or partial shade under a larger tree. You must keep the soil consistently, evenly moist, like a wrung-out sponge, and feed it every 2 weeks with a weak, highly diluted, organic liquid kelp fertilizer. The harvest time is a continuous, magical process. from early summer until the first autumn frost. You hand-pick the tiny fruits when the seeds turn slightly red and the flesh is pure, ghost white. For the ultimate gastronomic experience, popping one of these raw berries directly into your mouth delivers a bizarre, mind-bending culinary sensation. Despite looking like a strawberry, it tastes exactly like an explosion of intensely sweet tropical pineapple and rich vanilla bean. A detailed clinical study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry confirms their white color is due to the complete genetic absence of the Fra-A1 protein, making them 100% hypoallergenic for people severely allergic to standard red strawberries. Fascinating fact: historically known as the woodland strawberry, this exact species was the absolute favorite, exclusive delicacy of King Charles V of France, who firmly demanded that thousands of these specific plants be heavily cultivated within the heavily guarded royal gardens of the Louvre. Coming in at number 13 is the highly exotic Jaboticaba, universally known as the Brazilian grape tree. To buy these fruits fresh in North America is nearly financially impossible because they rapidly begin to ferment mere days after being picked. Because this incredibly slow-growing evergreen tree develops a dense root system that actively despises alkaline conditions, you absolutely must use a deep, heavy-duty 15-gallon plastic pot. Standard backyard soil will suffocate and kill this tree. You must fill the massive container with a highly acidic, finely milled mixture of pure peat moss, compost, and coarse perlite to drive the pH level down below 5.5. You must purchase an established, grafted nursery tree, as a seed-grown Jaboticaba will literally take over a decade to produce a single fruit. Place the container in an area of your backyard that receives bright morning sun but is heavily protected from the scorching afternoon heat. The Jaboticaba naturally grows in swamps and absolutely loves wet feet. You must water the container relentlessly, completely saturating the soil daily during the summer heat, and feed it generously every month with an acid-loving organic fertilizer. The harvest time is an absolute biological spectacle right on your patio. The tree exhibits a rare phenomenon called cauliflora, meaning it produces fuzzy white flowers and dark purple, grape-like fruits directly out of the thick, woody bark of its main trunk. When preparing this Brazilian delicacy, you simply bite the thick, tart skin to effortlessly pop out the sweet, translucent, lychee-flavored, gelatinous flesh hidden inside. Researchers in the Journal of Functional Foods verified that Jaboticaba skin contains a massive concentration of jaboticabine, an incredibly rare, highly unique antioxidant compound. It is not merely nutrition. It is currently highly coveted by the medical community for its ability to raise a molecular shield, fiercely protecting fragile human cells from the ruthless devastation of severe inflammation and systemic oxidative stress. Fascinating fact: evolutionary biologists believe the Jaboticaba tree specifically evolved to physically grow its heavy fruits directly on the main, thick wooden trunk, rather than on the fragile ends of its branches, so that the fruits would not be forcefully torn off by catastrophic tropical storms in the Amazon rainforest. Sliding into number 12 is the visually terrifying, astronomically expensive Buddha's Hand Citron, costing up to $30 for a single fruit at high-end specialty grocers. This ancient, bizarre citrus looks exactly like a bright yellow alien sea monster with a dozen writhing tentacles. Because it is a heavy, branching citrus tree, a 15-gallon unglazed terracotta pot is the absolute perfect container, explicitly designed to pull excess moisture rapidly away from the root zone to prevent fungal rot. You must fill the terracotta pot with a highly alkaline, fast-draining cactus mix, heavily choked with crushed gravel and agricultural pumice. You must purchase a grafted nursery sapling and place the heavy container in the absolute hottest, most punishing, sun-scorched environment your backyard possesses. The watering regimen requires strict discipline. You must let the pot dry out completely before unleashing a heavy deluge of water from your garden hose. And feed it heavily with an iron and zinc-rich citrus fertilizer. Arriving in midwinter, the massive green tentacles will slowly transition to a brilliant, glowing neon yellow, filling your entire backyard with an intoxicating, heavy perfume of lavender and sweet lemon. Harvest them by snipping the thick woody stems with sharp shears. As a culinary ingredient, this fruit presents the ultimate biological curveball. If you slice it open, there is absolutely zero juice, zero pulp, and zero seeds inside. Instead, you entirely candy the sweet, completely non-bitter white pith and highly aromatic yellow rind in heavy sugar syrup, or submerge it directly into premium vodka. A pharmacological review in evidence-based complementary and alternative medicine confirmed that the rind of this exotic organism contains a dense concentration of coumarin. When extracted and utilized, these compounds serve as a powerful biological ally, slowly awakening and soothing respiratory tissues, helping to clear the airway flow to deliver a sensation of ultimate, pristine openness deep into your lungs. Fascinating fact: for over 2,000 years in ancient China and Japan, the Buddha's hand was rarely eaten. Wealthy noblemen would pay absolute fortunes to display the raw fruit in their temples, utilizing its overpowering fragrance as an ancient biological room deodorizer. Number 11 brings us the spectacular boutique Pineberry. Sold in tiny, clear plastic clamshells for exorbitant prices at premium organic markets, these fruits look exactly like unripe, defective strawberries, but are actually a highly stabilized, premium genetic hybrid. Because they require excellent drainage to prevent crown rot, a wide, 5-gallon hanging plastic basket is the absolute perfect container, naturally keeping the delicate fruits completely elevated away from soil-borne backyard pests. Fill the basket with a premium, slightly acidic, highly aerated potting soil, heavily amended with peat moss and rich compost. You must purchase dormant bare root crowns and plant them so the central crown is perfectly level with the soil surface. Burying it too deep will cause immediate, fatal rotting. Suspend the hanging basket from your backyard porch in an area receiving full, direct sunlight. And because pine berries are incredibly thirsty, you must water the container deeply and relentlessly, ensuring the soil never dries out during summer heat. Apply a heavy, phosphorus-rich organic granular fertilizer early in spring. The harvest time arrives in early summer. The berries are perfectly ripe when the white flesh becomes slightly soft, and the tiny seeds on the outside transition from pale green to a brilliant, glowing, bloody red. Gently pinch the stems to harvest them. Transforming this harvest into a gourmet treat is simple, as these highly aromatic berries are strictly eaten raw, right off the vine, delivering an intense flavor profile that perfectly mimics a freshly sliced, incredibly sweet tropical pineapple. Agricultural mass spectrometry analysis, published by the University of Florida, confirms pine berries contain massively concentrated levels of ellagic acid, physically binding to certain toxins in the human gut and systematically flushing them out of the body. Fascinating fact: despite looking like a modern laboratory invention, the pineberry is an ancient, completely natural hybrid between a wild South American strawberry and a North American strawberry that occurred entirely by accident in the 1700s. And it actually went completely extinct in the wild before being biologically resurrected by Dutch breeders in 2003. We're 1/3 of the way through our list. Were you impressed by those first 5 fruits? Do you already have any expensive plants growing in your garden? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's dive into the next 10 on our list. At number 10 is the extraordinarily rare Haskap Berry, universally known as the honey berry. Highly prized in Japan and slowly trickling into luxury Western markets, these bizarre, elongated, rectangular blue berries are considered the ultimate high-priced superfood. Because they develop a vigorous spreading root system, a wide 7-gallon fabric grow bag is the absolute perfect choice to ensure maximum oxygenation and prevent root circling. Fill the container with a premium compost-heavy potting mix. Unlike blueberries that demand extreme acidity, the Haskap perfectly thrives in standard neutral pH soil. You absolutely must purchase 2 completely different varieties of bare root dormant bushes from a specialized nursery and plant them in 2 separate pots next to each other on your patio, as they strictly require cross-pollination to physically produce a single berry. Place the containers in full, unobstructed backyard sunlight. Keep the soil evenly, deeply moist, and apply a slow-release organic fertilizer just once in early spring. The harvest time is incredibly fast, biologically engineered to be the very first fruit to ripen in your entire backyard garden, often appearing in late spring before standard strawberries even finish blooming. Harvest the dusty blue cylindrical berries when the inside flesh transitions from green to a deep, bloody burgundy. On the palate, eating a raw Haskap berry delivers an explosive flavor that tastes exactly like a blueberry, a raspberry, and a tart blackberry beautifully blended together. A landmark study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry proved Haskap berries contain 3 times the raw anthocyanins of wild blueberries, deeply nourishing human optic nerve cells and rapidly soothing severe eye fatigue. Fascinating fact: biologically, originating from the brutal, frozen tundras of Siberia, the Haskap bush is virtually indestructible to cold weather. The delicate, open white flowers can physically survive violent snowstorms and temperatures plunging down to an astonishing -50 degrees Fahrenheit without freezing or dropping off the plant. Coming in at number 9 is the incredibly bizarre Kiwano, famously known as the horned melon. Finding this alien-looking fruit in a standard grocery store is nearly impossible, and when you do, a single spiky melon can easily cost up to $10. Because the Kiwano is a voracious, highly invasive climbing vine, a standard pot is utterly useless. You must use a deep, heavy 10-gallon plastic container and firmly insert a towering, heavy-duty metal trellis directly into the potting mix for the thick tendrils to completely conquer. Fill the container with a rich, compost-heavy soil that retains moisture efficiently but drains rapidly. You can easily start this plant from seed, placing the container in the absolute, most blistering, full-sun location your backyard patio offers. Because the massive canopy of prickly leaves transpires water at an astonishing rate, you must water the container heavily every single day during the summer heat, never letting the soil turn to dust. To fuel its rapid vertical climbing, apply a high-potassium organic liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks. The harvest time arrives in late summer when the bizarre, spike-covered green melons suddenly transition to a brilliant, glowing neon orange. You must wear thick leather gardening gloves to harvest them, using heavy shears to snip the thick vine, as the spikes are fiercely sharp and will easily draw blood. Once placed on your cutting board, slice the alien melon in half and generously scoop out the glowing, neon green gelatinous interior with a spoon, delivering a massively refreshing, tart flavor mimicking ripe bananas, sour limes, and crisp cucumbers. Clinical research published in Blood Pressure Monitoring confirmed that Kiwano seeds are a colossal treasure trove of linoleic acid and magnesium. Instead of forcing the body's mechanics, this micronutrient combination silently operates as a masterful biological regulator, continuously nourishing the elasticity of blood vessels and supporting your heart in maintaining a perfect, steadfast rhythm against the ruthless pressure of time. Fascinating fact: because of its terrifying, completely unearthly appearance, the Kiwano melon was explicitly featured in the classic television series Star Trek as the official, bizarre alien food of the extraterrestrial planets, successfully completely fooling millions of viewers. Number 8 brings us the breathtaking Panache tiger fig. Standard commercial figs are already expensive, but this incredibly rare, highly visual boutique mutation is highly coveted by gourmet chefs for its stunning green and yellow striped skin. Because fig roots require extreme physical restriction to strongly stimulate heavy fruiting, a tight 5-gallon unglazed terracotta pot is the absolute ultimate container. The claustrophobic space physically forces the tree to stop growing roots and start pumping out massive amounts of fruit. Fill the container with a very poor, heavy, loamy potting soil, heavily mixed with coarse sand for rapid drainage. Propagate this tree by purchasing an established nursery cutting and planting it in early spring. Place the heavy pot in the most blistering, sun-scorched, punishing corner of your backyard. The watering strategy requires harsh, ruthless discipline. You must allow the soil to dry out completely between deep waterings, as overwatering will cause the heavy, swelling figs to physically split open and rapidly rot directly on the branch. Apply only a single handful of organic bone meal in the spring. Occurring in late summer, you must wait until the firm, beautiful green and yellow stripes begin to slightly fade, and the fig physically droops downward, becoming incredibly soft to the touch, before twisting it off the branch. To consume this exotic treasure, slice this striped masterpiece in half to reveal a shocking, brilliant, bloody red interior with an intensely rich, acidic bite that tastes exactly like premium raspberry jam. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition verified that the dense, concentrated mucilage inside this specific fig actively binds to bile acids in the human digestive tract, safely pulling toxins and heavy metals out of the bloodstream. Fascinating fact: the spectacular green and yellow stripes on this specific fig are actually the result of a highly unstable, naturally occurring biological chimera mutation. This means the tree essentially has two completely different sets of DNA physically fighting for dominance within the exact same plant, causing the fruit skin to dynamically alternate colors. At number 7, we have the undisputed king of luxury spices, the vanilla bean. Scientifically recognized as vanilla planifolia, purchasing a single, high-quality plump vanilla pod can easily cost upwards of $20, making it the second most expensive agricultural crop on planet Earth. Because it is a tropical, aggressive climbing orchid vine, a standard pot is completely useless. You must use a heavy 5-gallon clay pot and securely install a towering, thick, damp sphagnum moss pole directly into the center for the thick aerial roots to physically grip and climb. The soil must be a highly specialized, rapidly draining orchid bark mixture blended with cocoa coir. Standard backyard potting soil will suffocate the roots instantly. Place the container in a deeply shaded corner of your backyard pergola that perfectly mimics a humid jungle canopy, completely protected from direct sunlight. You must heavily mist the massive moss pole every single day to maintain extreme ambient humidity, watering the actual pot only when the bark feels slightly dry, and fertilize weekly with an orchid spray. The harvest time requires agonizing, brutal patience, taking up to 3 years for the vine to mature and produce its pale green flowers. The elongated pods must remain attached to the living vine for 9 grueling months before harvesting. Once picked, You must painstakingly cure and sweat the pods for weeks until they turn completely black. Gastronomically speaking, you must meticulously slice the leathery pod open and use a knife to firmly scrape out the millions of microscopic black caviar-like seeds to create the ultimate pure vanilla extract. Neurological research from the Journal of Psychopharmacology indicates that inhaling pure vanillin triggers a spectacular biochemical reaction. It directly interacts with the brain's GABA receptors. Rather than just a simple fragrance, it acts like a soothing silk ribbon wrapped around the nervous system, calming blazing stress signals and gently plunging the human mind into an incredibly luxurious, deeply relaxed state. Fascinating fact: because the specific, highly specialized species of Melipona bee required to naturally pollinate this orchid only exists in deep Mexico, every single commercial vanilla pod grown anywhere else on the entire planet must be meticulously, painstakingly pollinated entirely by hand by a human worker, using a tiny wooden toothpick. Number 6 is the massive, highly sought-after Soursop, famously known as guanabana. If you live outside of a tropical zone, finding this massive, spiked green fruit fresh is virtually impossible, and specialty importers will easily charge over $40 for a single fruit. Because this tropical evergreen tree develops a massive, deep taproot, you absolutely must use a deep, heavy-duty 15-gallon plastic pot to provide downward space and extreme structural stability. Fill the pot with a highly aerated, well-draining citrus or palm soil mix, heavily amended with coarse pumice. You must completely avoid planting Soursop from seed if you want rapid results. Purchase a grafted dwarf nursery tree. Place the pot in the most blistering, sweltering, full sun location possible in your backyard, as this tree absolutely demands extreme tropical heat to survive. Soursops despise wet feet, but consume massive amounts of water when flowering. Practice strict watering discipline, soaking the pot heavily, then allowing the topsoil to dry out significantly, and feed it monthly with a high-potassium organic fertilizer. Arriving in the agonizing heat of late summer, the massive heart-shaped fruits are covered in terrifying, soft green spikes. You know they are ready when the skin loses its shiny green luster and the spines become physically soft and pliable. Cut the thick stem with heavy shears. When it comes time to serve this massive bounty, pull apart the milky white, stringy flesh with your hands, delivering an explosive flavor blending ripe strawberries, sweet pineapples, and sour citrus. A massive global study published in Cancer Letters unveiled an astonishing biological truth. Soursop contains a dense concentration of annonaceous acetogenins. In a controlled laboratory environment, these compounds act as silent cellular assassins, targeting and dismantling the structure of malignant cells. While the scientific community is still racing to decode exactly how they operate within the complex system of the human body, the ruthless biochemical potential of this fruit against defective cells is truly a masterpiece of nature. Fascinating fact: the black seeds, hidden inside the sweet flesh of the soursop, contain incredibly high levels of annonacin, a neurotoxin so remarkably potent that indigenous tribes in the Amazon crush the raw seeds and use them as a highly lethal, natural biological pesticide to completely eradicate head lice. We're finally down to the top 5 on our list. Were you impressed by the first 10 plants? Let me know down in the comments. Now, let's dive into the top 5. Make sure you stick around until the very end, because the final plant is going to absolutely blow your mind. Let's go! Taking the number 5 spot is the legendary Himalayan superfood, the Goji Berry, scientifically classified as Lycium barbarum. Purchasing premium, organic, dried goji berries at a health food store is outrageously expensive. Yet this tough, vining shrub is incredibly easy to grow and yields massively in a backyard patio container. Because it naturally grows as a wild, vigorously sprawling thicket, you must use a 10-gallon, highly breathable fabric grow bag to effectively air prune the roots and stop them from completely taking over the container. Fill the bag with a surprisingly poor, sandy, highly alkaline soil mix. Adding a handful of agricultural lime to standard potting soil is strictly required, as acidic conditions will slowly kill the plant. You can purchase a bare root dormant plant and place the container in the absolute most blistering, sun-drenched corner of your backyard. The watering regimen requires strict, ruthless discipline. Treat it exactly like a desert survivor. You must let the pot dry out completely before unleashing a heavy deluge of water. Absolutely zero synthetic fertilizer is required. This plant thrives in barren, tough conditions. To keep it compact, you must rigorously prune the long, arching canes every single winter. Arriving in late summer, the long branches will be densely packed with hundreds of tiny, glowing red, oblong berries. You must harvest them by extremely gently shaking the branches over a cloth. Instead of eating them raw, you must dry these highly medicinal berries in the hot sun until they shrivel like raisins, intensely concentrating their sweet sugars and massive levels of antioxidants for use in premium teas and medicinal soups. A detailed biochemical analysis in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine proved goji berries contain massive zeaxanthin levels, which physically deposit directly into the human macula to effectively filter out tissue-destroying blue UV light. Fascinating fact: the skin of the fresh goji berry is so incredibly delicate and biologically highly reactive that if you physically touch the raw, unpicked red berry with your bare human fingers, the natural oils on your skin will cause the fruit to rapidly oxidize, turn completely black, and rapidly degrade within hours. Breaking into the top 4 is the ultimate botanical flex: the Monstera Deliciosa fruit. While millions of people grow the massive Swiss cheese plant as a decorative indoor houseplant, very few realize that under extreme tropical conditions, it produces a bizarre, scaly, completely unearthly fruit that luxury fruit hunters will happily pay $50 to acquire. Because it is a heavy, vining jungle epiphyte, you must use a massive 15-gallon heavy plastic pot and securely bury a towering, thick sphagnum moss pole directly into the aeroid mix for its massive aerial roots to crush and climb. Fill the container with a highly specialized, chunky potting blend completely choked with orchid bark, perlite, and cocoa coir. You must purchase an established, mature vine. If you have a heavily shaded, humid corner under a large tree in your backyard, place the container there. It requires bright, indirect, dappled shade and extreme ambient humidity. Keep the soil evenly moist and heavily feed it with a liquid organic fertilizer every 2 weeks during the summer. The harvest time requires excruciating, absolute patience. The plant will produce a massive, white, lily-like flower that reveals a green, scaly, phallic-looking fruit. You must wait nearly an entire year for the massive fruit to mature on the vine before snapping it off the stem. For its culinary application, you absolutely cannot eat it immediately. You must place it in a glass jar and wait for the green, hexagonal scales to physically pop and fall off. You only eat the white flesh that has completely shed its scales, delivering an intoxicating flavor exactly like a tropical fruit salad of banana, mango, and pineapple. A study by the University of Florida confirmed the ripe flesh contains highly concentrated levels of potassium and vitamin C, acting as a powerful biological fuel to physically accelerate muscle recovery in elite athletes. Fascinating fact, the word Deliciosa means delicious, but the word Monstera refers to its monstrous traits. If you are impatient and take a bite of the raw fruit before the green scales fall off naturally, millions of microscopic, needle-like calcium oxalate crystals hidden inside the unripe flesh will painfully irritate and tear the soft tissues of your throat apart. Coming in at number 3 is the highly coveted, virtually unshippable black mulberry. Specifically, the authentic Persian mulberry. You cannot buy these in supermarkets at any price because the fruit is so incredibly soft and dripping with heavy juice that placing them in a plastic clamshell turns them into mashed puree within an hour. They absolutely must be eaten directly off the tree in your own backyard. Because the root system is highly expansive, a wide 15-gallon fabric grow bag is the absolute perfect choice to ensure maximum oxygenation and completely prevent the roots from destroying the pot. Fill the container with a slightly acidic, heavily composted potting soil mixed with coarse sand for superior drainage. You must purchase a bare root dormant bush from a specialized nursery and plant it in early spring. Place the container in full, unobstructed sunlight. Watering requires strict attention. As the green fruit sets, the soil must be kept consistently, deeply moist, watering it heavily every single day during the summer heat to ensure the berries become incredibly plump. Apply a slow-release organic fertilizer just once in early spring. The harvest time arrives in the peak of midsummer. The dense bush will be heavily loaded with massive, plump, jet black, fuzzy berries that look like elongated blackberries. You must gently, carefully pull the dark purple berries. If perfectly ripe, they detach with zero resistance. Bringing this prize indoors, these intensely sweet, complex berries become the ultimate ingredient for dark, artisan summer jams. Or they can be simply gorged on raw by the handful right on the patio. A rigorous pharmacological review and phytotherapy research proved that this astonishing, pitch-black pigment is forged from massive concentrations of rutin. This biological compound is anything but ordinary. It acts as a molecular shield, persistently fortifying the structural endurance of capillary walls and aggressively supporting microcirculation, effectively transforming this fruit into an exceptionally highly prized cellular cosmetic from the inside out. Fascinating fact, the intensely dark, vibrant purple juice inside the black mulberry is so highly pigmented and biologically stable that the ancient Romans utilized it heavily, not just as a premium food source, but as a permanent, indelible, bloody red biological dye to physically color their fabrics and artificially enhance the color of their cheapest wines. The runner-up at number 2 is the legendary, highly elusive Gros Michel banana. This is not the cheap Cavendish banana you buy at the store today. This is the original, authentic Big Mike, the premium, overwhelmingly sweet banana that your grandparents ate before it was supposedly driven to global extinction, making it the ultimate, highly prized backyard trophy. Because this plant develops an immense, fleshy underground corm and carries a heavy canopy of gigantic leaves, you absolutely must use a colossal, 15-gallon hard plastic pot to completely prevent the wind from toppling it over. Fill this massive container with a slightly acidic, extremely rich potting soil, heavily amended with thick organic compost and perlite for aggressive drainage. You must hunt down a specialized rare fruit nursery to purchase a live, rooted, vegetative pup of the Gros Michel. Place the container in the absolute hottest, most blistering full sun location your backyard can offer. Bananas consist of nearly 80% water, meaning your watering schedule must be completely relentless. You must heavily drench the soil, every single day during the summer heat, never ever allowing the root zone to dry out. Feed it heavily every 2 weeks with a specialized fertilizer loaded with potassium and nitrogen. The harvest time tests your patience, requiring over a year of uninterrupted growth. Once the thick cluster of green bananas begins to swell, use a sharp machete to slice the entire massive stalk right off the plant. Hang the stalk to ripen fully. When you finally peel and taste a Gros Michel, you will experience a shockingly familiar, explosive flavor profile. A clinical study published in the Journal of Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry verified that Gros Michel bananas possess uniquely high, hyperconcentrated levels of tryptophan, an amino acid that safely crosses the blood-brain barrier to naturally elevate human serotonin and support mood regulation. Fascinating fact: if you have ever eaten a piece of artificial banana-flavored candy, you are tasting the exact flavor profile of the Gros Michel. The global candy industry engineered that artificial flavor specifically to mimic this exact banana in the 1920s, long before a catastrophic soil fungus called Panama disease tragically wiped the entire Gros Michel commercial supply off the face of the earth in the 1950s. Taking the absolute crown at number 1 is the ultimate botanical luxury, the cacao tree, scientifically named Theobroma cacao. While humanity voraciously consumes millions of tons of processed chocolate daily, acquiring a raw, fresh, unadulterated cacao pod is a wildly expensive, hyper-rare culinary experience that you can physically grow in a massive container in your backyard. Because this is an authentic tropical understory tree, you must use a gigantic 15-gallon heavy plastic pot with superb drainage. Fill it with an incredibly rich, loamy, slightly acidic potting mix, heavily amended with peat moss and thick compost. You cannot grow this from a dried commercial bean. You absolutely must purchase a live, grafted sapling from a specialized tropical nursery. Place the massive container in a deeply shaded, intensely humid corner of your backyard patio, completely protected from high winds and direct, scorching sunlight, which will severely scorch its massive leaves. Watering is a delicate, strict balance. The soil must remain consistently, deeply damp, but never permanently waterlogged. You absolutely must mist the massive, broad leaves daily to explicitly mimic the extreme, suffocating humidity of the Amazon rainforest. Feed it monthly with a high-nitrogen organic liquid fertilizer. The harvest time is a grueling test of patience, requiring 3 to 4 years for the tree to produce its massive, football-shaped, colorful pods directly on the main wooden trunk. Harvest the heavy yellow and red pods using a sharp machete. To process this ultimate luxury ingredient, you forcefully split the thick pod open to extract the raw, white, slimy, incredibly sweet gelatinous seeds. After painstakingly fermenting and expertly roasting these raw seeds, you physically grind them into the most potent, bitter, premium hot chocolate of your entire life. A groundbreaking neurochemical study in the journal Neurobiology of Learning and Memory revealed raw cacao contains anandamide, the bliss molecule, which physically binds to specific receptors in the human brain, triggering a highly legal, deeply comforting, euphoric lift. Fascinating fact: long before the Spanish conquest, the raw beans of the cacao tree were considered so incredibly valuable, divine, and economically powerful by the ancient Aztec Empire that they completely abandoned gold and utilized the raw cacao beans as their literal, physical currency. You could successfully purchase a wild turkey for exactly 100 cacao beans, proving that money did, in fact, physically grow on trees. And that wraps up our list of 15 expensive fruits you can grow in pots. Which of these varieties is the perfect fit for your space? Did I miss any expensive plants that you've already successfully grown? Let me know down in the comments, along with what gardening topics you'd like me to cover next. If you found this video helpful and practical, hit that like button, subscribe for more guides, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy growing!